According to Helena Blavatsky, the co-founder of the Theosophical Society, human history extends far beyond the conventional timeline taught in schools and universities. In her monumental work, The Secret Doctrine, published in 1888, Blavatsky revealed what she claimed was the true chronology of human evolution. A vast cosmic plan spanning millions of years and encompassing 7 distinct root races, each representing a major phase in humanity's spiritual and physical development. Blavatsky taught that this knowledge came to her through direct communication with the Masters of Wisdom, also known as the Mahatmas, highly evolved beings who guide humanity's evolution from behind the scenes. These masters, she claimed, preserved the ancient wisdom teachings in secret libraries hidden in the Himalayas and other remote locations, maintaining an unbroken chain of knowledge that stretches back to the very beginning of human consciousness on Earth. The Theosophical timeline begins not with conventional history, but with the emergence of consciousness itself in what Blavatsky called the first root race. Unlike modern humans, these early beings were essentially ethereal, existing in a state of pure spirit with minimal physical form. They inhabited what she described as the imperishable sacred land, a polar continent that exists on a higher dimensional plane. According to Blavatsky's teachings, each root race develops through 7 sub-races, and each sub-race evolves through 7 branch races, creating an intricate pattern of human development that follows cosmic law rather than random evolution. This systematic progression reflects what she called the law of cycles, whereby all manifestation follows predictable patterns of emergence, development, culmination, and dissolution. The significance of this timeline extends beyond mere historical curiosity. Blavatsky taught that understanding humanity's true origins and destiny is essential for comprehending our current purpose and the challenges we face in the present age. She believed that we are currently living in the 5th root race, approaching a critical transition period that will determine whether humanity successfully evolves to the next stage or faces stagnation and eventual decline. This cosmic perspective was revolutionary for its time and continues to influence spiritual and esoteric thinking today, offering a framework for understanding human existence within a much larger context of universal evolution. Chapter 2: The Hyperborean Age and Early Humanity. The second root race, known as the Hyperboreans, marked humanity's first step toward physical manifestation, according to Blavatsky's teachings. These beings inhabited a continent in the far north, in regions that are now the northern parts of Asia and Europe. Unlike their ethereal predecessors, the Hyperboreans began to develop more substantial forms, though they remained largely androgynous and reproduced through a process more akin to budding than sexual reproduction. Blavatsky described the Hyperboreans as golden-colored beings of enormous stature, some reaching heights of 60 feet or more. They possessed what she called natural clairvoyance, being able to perceive spiritual dimensions directly without the need for physical senses as we understand them today. Their civilization was characterized by harmony with natural forces and direct communication with the spiritual hierarchies that guided planetary evolution. The Hyperborean age lasted approximately 300,000 years, during which time these beings gradually developed the capacity for individual thought and will. This was a crucial stage in human evolution because it marked the beginning of self-consciousness, the ability to think "I am" as distinct from the universal consciousness that had previously been humanity's only mode of awareness. During this period, according to Blavatsky, the Earth itself was undergoing dramatic changes. The planet was still cooling from its formation, and the continents were constantly shifting. The Hyperboreans adapted to these changes through their malleable physical forms, which could adjust to environmental conditions in ways that would seem impossible to modern humans. The end of the Hyperborean age came not through catastrophe, but through natural evolution. As these beings developed individual consciousness, they began to lose their direct connection to spiritual realms and their ability to mold their physical forms at will. This loss was actually a necessary sacrifice, as it allowed for the development of individual intelligence and creative will, qualities that would be essential for humanity's future spiritual evolution. Blavatsky taught that remnants of Hyperborean consciousness still exist in certain humans today, manifesting as psychic abilities, genius-level intelligence, or profound spiritual insight. She believed that understanding this ancient heritage could help modern humans reconnect with their higher faculties while maintaining the individual consciousness that is humanity's greatest achievement. Chapter 3. Lemuria, the Lost Motherland. The third root race, known as the Lemurians, represents one of the most significant periods in Blavatsky's timeline of human evolution. These beings inhabited a vast continent called Lemuria, which Blavatsky described as spanning much of what is now the Pacific and Indian Oceans, including parts of present-day Asia, Africa, and the Americas. The Lemurians marked humanity's full descent into physical form and the development of individual consciousness as we know it today. According to the Secret Doctrine, the Lemurians were giants, typically 12 to 15 feet tall, with physical forms that were more solid and defined than their predecessors. Most significantly, it was during the Lemurian period that the separation of the sexes occurred, ending the androgynous phase of human existence and beginning sexual reproduction as the means of perpetuating the race. Blavatsky taught that the Lemurians possessed a third eye, not metaphorically, but as an actual physical organ located in the back of the head. This eye gave them psychic sight and the ability to perceive both the physical and astral planes simultaneously. However, as individual consciousness developed and the focus shifted to material existence, this third eye gradually became dormant, eventually becoming what modern anatomy recognizes as the pineal gland. The Lemurian civilization lasted approximately 700,000 years and achieved remarkable feats that would seem impossible by today's standards. They were said to communicate telepathically, move massive stones through the power of concentrated will, and maintain direct contact with their creators, the spiritual beings Blavatsky called the Lords of Flame, who had initiated human consciousness. The destruction of Lemuria came through a series of volcanic eruptions and earthquakes that gradually sank the continent beneath the waves. However, Blavatsky emphasized that this destruction was not punishment, but part of the natural cycle of planetary evolution. She taught that some Lemurians escaped the catastrophe, migrating to what would become Atlantis and other lands, carrying with them the seeds of the next phase of human development. Modern Easter Island, with its mysterious giant statues, was said by Blavatsky to be one of the last remnants of the Lemurian continent, and the statues themselves were described as crude reproductions of the actual Lemurian giants who once inhabited the Pacific. Chapter 4. Atlantis, the rise and fall of the fourth race. Perhaps the most famous aspect of Blavatsky's historical timeline is her detailed account of Atlantis, the continent of the fourth root race. Drawing from Plato's original account, but vastly expanding upon it, Blavatsky described Atlantis as a massive continent located in the Atlantic Ocean, approximately where the ocean's mid-Atlantic ridge exists today. She taught that Atlantean civilization represented the peak of material achievement in human history, surpassing even modern technology in many respects. The Atlanteans, according to Blavatsky, were the first humans to develop organized religion, formal government, and advanced sciences. They mastered what she called dynamic force, the manipulation of subtle energies that allowed them to achieve seemingly miraculous feats. Atlantean aircraft, powered by this force, could travel vast distances and even navigate between dimensions. Their cities featured massive crystal structures that served both architectural and technological purposes, channeling and amplifying natural energies. However, Blavatsky taught that the Atlanteans' greatest achievement, their mastery over material forces, also became their downfall. As they grew more powerful technologically, they began to lose touch with spiritual principles. The later periods of Atlantean civilization were characterized by materialism, selfishness, and the abuse of psychic powers for personal gain rather than collective advancement. Blavatsky divided Atlantean history into several distinct periods, with the Golden Age occurring approximately 1 million years ago. During this time, the Atlanteans maintained contact with the spiritual hierarchy and used their advanced capabilities in harmony with cosmic law. However, as individual ego consciousness developed, many Atlanteans began to pursue power for its own sake, leading to conflicts that eventually involved the misuse of their technological and psychic abilities. The final destruction of Atlantis occurred in several stages, with the last major catastrophe happening approximately 11,500 years ago, remarkably close to the date given by Plato. Blavatsky taught that this destruction was brought about partly by natural cycles, but was accelerated by the Atlanteans' misuse of the very forces they had mastered. Their experiments with what we might today call atomic energy created instabilities in the Earth's crust that ultimately led to the continent's submersion. Survivors of Atlantis migrated to various parts of the world, becoming the ancestors of many ancient civilizations and carrying with them fragments of Atlantean knowledge that would surface in later mystery schools and esoteric traditions. Chapter 5. The Fifth Race, our current evolutionary stage. According to Blavatsky's teachings, humanity currently exists within the fifth root race, which began its development approximately 100,000 years ago with the emergence of what she called the Aryan peoples. This term, as used by Blavatsky, referred not to any ethnic or racial group in the modern sense, but to a stage of mental and spiritual development characterized by the full flowering of intellectual faculties and individual reasoning power. The fifth root race represents a crucial transition in human evolution, marking the point where intellectual development reaches its peak, while spiritual faculties begin their conscious reawakening. Blavatsky taught that this race would produce 7 sub-races, each contributing unique qualities to human development. She identified the first sub-race as having emerged in India, followed by the Babylonian, Assyrian, Egyptian, Chaldean, Greco-Roman, and Teutonic Anglo-Saxon sub-races. The current sub-race, primarily manifesting through European and North American civilizations, represents the fifth development of the fifth root race. Blavatsky predicted that this sub-race would achieve unprecedented technological advancement and material prosperity, but would also face the challenge of materialism threatening to overshadow spiritual development, a prediction that many find remarkably prescient given current global conditions. According to Theosophical teaching, the fifth root race's mission is to develop manas, or the thinking principle, to its fullest potential. This involves not only intellectual advancement, but also the cultivation of discrimination, the ability to distinguish between the real and the unreal, the temporary and the eternal. The race's evolutionary goal is to prepare humanity for the eventual reunion of mind and spirit in conscious cooperation. Blavatsky taught that within the fifth root race, certain individuals would begin to develop the characteristics of the coming sixth root race. These pioneers would demonstrate increasing psychic sensitivity, intuitive wisdom, and the ability to work consciously with subtle energies. She believed that the appearance of such individuals would accelerate toward the end of the fifth race period. The challenges facing the fifth root race include overcoming the separative tendencies of individual ego development while maintaining the valuable qualities of personal initiative and creative thinking. Blavatsky warned that failure to achieve this balance could result in spiritual stagnation or even regression, making the transition to the sixth root race impossible for large portions of humanity. Chapter 6. The Coming Sixth Root Race. Blavatsky's prophetic vision extended far into humanity's future with her teachings about the sixth root race, which she predicted would begin emerging in the coming centuries. This race would represent a fundamental shift in human consciousness, characterized by the awakening of buddhi, the intuitive wisdom principle that operates beyond ordinary mental reasoning. The sixth root race would embody the reunion of intellectual development with spiritual insight, creating beings capable of direct perception of truth. According to Blavatsky's timeline, the sixth root race would first appear in the Americas, particularly in what is now the Western United States. She taught that this location was chosen by the guiding spiritual hierarchy because of specific geographical and energetic conditions that would support the new type of consciousness. The race would gradually spread from this epicenter, but its influence would be felt worldwide as the new consciousness principles became established. The beings of the sixth root race would possess what Blavatsky called spiritual sight, a reawakening of the psychic faculties that had been dormant since Lemurian times, but now operating through purified and evolved consciousness rather than the instinctive awareness of earlier races. These individuals would be natural mystics and healers, capable of perceiving the subtle forces that underlie physical phenomena and working with them consciously for the benefit of all life. Blavatsky predicted that the sixth race would develop new forms of communication that transcend spoken language, returning to the telepathic abilities of ancient times, but on a higher octave. Art, science, and religion would become unified expressions of cosmic truth rather than separate disciplines, and the artificial divisions between material and spiritual knowledge would dissolve. The transition to the sixth root race would not happen overnight, but would span thousands of years, with the new consciousness gradually expressing through increasing numbers of individuals. Blavatsky taught that this process had already begun in her time through the appearance of unusually advanced souls, incarnating specifically to anchor the new energies. However, she also warned that this transition would be accompanied by great upheavals in human civilization. The materialistic structures and institutions of the fifth race would prove inadequate for the expanding consciousness of the new race, leading to periods of conflict and reconstruction as humanity adapted to its evolving spiritual nature. Chapter 7. The Role of the Masters in Human Evolution. Central to Blavatsky's understanding of human evolution is the role of the Masters of Wisdom, also known as the Great White Brotherhood or the Hierarchy of Adepts. These beings, according to Theosophical teaching, are humans who have completed their ordinary evolutionary journey and chosen to remain connected with Earth to guide and assist humanity's development. Blavatsky claimed direct contact with several of these masters, particularly those she knew as Moria and Kuthumi. Blavatsky taught that the masters work according to cosmic law and cycles, never interfering with human free will, but providing guidance and opportunity for those ready to receive it. Throughout history, they have established mystery schools, inspired religious and philosophical movements, and incarnated as great teachers when humanity needed direction during crucial evolutionary periods. The Master's primary method of guidance involves working through individuals who have developed sufficient spiritual sensitivity to receive their impressions and teachings. Blavatsky claimed to be one such individual, serving as an intermediary to bring ancient wisdom to the modern world when humanity was ready for a more scientific and systematic understanding of spiritual principles. According to Blavatsky, each root race development is overseen by specific masters who specialize in the particular evolutionary needs of that period. The transition between races requires especially intensive guidance to ensure that the new consciousness principles are properly anchored and the previous race's achievements are preserved and integrated rather than lost. The masters work not only with individuals, but with entire civilizations, influencing the development of science, philosophy, and religion to prepare humanity for each new evolutionary stage. Blavatsky taught that many great scientific discoveries and spiritual insights throughout history were the result of masters inspiring receptive minds with knowledge appropriate for their time and culture. As humanity approaches the transition to the sixth root race, Blavatsky predicted that the masters would become more actively involved in world affairs, working through increasing numbers of developed disciples to help manage the planetary changes and consciousness shifts that would accompany this evolutionary step. The ultimate goal of the Master's work is to prepare humanity for complete self-governance and conscious participation in the solar system's evolution, eventually eliminating the need for external guidance as humans develop their own mastery over spiritual and material forces. Chapter 8: Cosmic Cycles and the Law of Evolution. Blavatsky's timeline of human evolution operates within a much larger framework of cosmic cycles that govern all manifestation in the universe. She taught that evolution proceeds according to precise mathematical laws, with periods of manifestation alternating with periods of rest in predictable patterns that repeat on various scales, from individual lives to cosmic epochs spanning billions of years. The development of the 7 root races represents just one cycle within what Blavatsky called a round, a complete evolutionary period during which consciousness experiences all possible combinations of spirit and matter. She taught that Earth is currently in its 4th round, during which the maximum point of material density has been reached, and the evolutionary tide is now turning back towards spiritual development. According to Theosophical cosmology, there are 7 rounds in total, each lasting many millions of years. In the first 3 rounds, consciousness gradually descends into increasingly dense matter, developing the capacity for individual experience. The 4th round represents the turning point, while the final 3 rounds involve the conscious return to spirit, but now enriched with the wisdom gained through material experience. Each round consists of 7 root race developments, each with 7 subraces and 7 branch races, creating an intricate pattern of evolutionary development that ensures every possible type of experience and learning. Blavatsky taught that this systematic progression reflects the fundamental structure of consciousness itself, which unfolds through septenary patterns at every level. The law of cycles also governs the rise and fall of civilizations within each root race. Blavatsky explained that every civilization follows a predictable pattern: emergence, growth, golden age, decline, and eventual destruction or transformation. This pattern reflects the cosmic breathing of manifestation, with periods of externalization followed by periods of internalization and renewal. Understanding these cycles was considered essential by Blavatsky because it provides perspective on current challenges and opportunities. She taught that those who understand cyclical law can work intelligently with evolutionary forces rather than being overwhelmed by apparent chaos or destruction, recognizing these as necessary phases in the larger pattern of development. Blavatsky predicted that the coming centuries would witness the culmination of the 5th root race cycle, and the beginning preparation for the sixth race emergence, making this a particularly crucial period in human evolution, requiring wise guidance and conscious participation from developed individuals. Chapter 9. The Seventh Root Race and Planetary Completion. Blavatsky's evolutionary timeline culminates with the seventh root race, which she taught would complete humanity's physical evolution on Earth and mark the preparation for existence on higher planes of being. This final race would embody the perfect synthesis of spiritual wisdom and material mastery, representing the fulfillment of the original divine plan for human development on this planet. According to Theosophical teaching, the seventh root race would consist of beings who have developed all seven principles of human nature to their fullest potential. They would possess complete conscious control over both spiritual and material forces, being able to work equally effectively on physical and spiritual planes. Their forms would be more ethereal than current humanity, approaching the luminous but substantial bodies that Blavatsky described in earlier races, but now informed by complete individual consciousness and will. The civilization of the seventh root race would be characterized by perfect harmony between the individual and the universal, with each being functioning as a conscious cell in the greater organism of humanity, while maintaining complete personal autonomy and creative expression. Government as we know it would be unnecessary, as each individual would naturally act in accordance with cosmic law and the good of the whole. Blavatsky taught that by the time of the seventh race, the Earth itself would have undergone significant changes. The planet would be less dense and more responsive to consciousness, allowing the inhabitants to reshape their environment through directed thought and will. The distinction between technology and spiritual power would disappear, as the seventh race would achieve through consciousness what earlier races accomplished through mechanical means. The completion of the seventh root race would mark the end of human evolution on Earth in physical form. Those beings who had successfully developed through all seven races would graduate to higher levels of cosmic existence, becoming guides and teachers for other evolutionary streams throughout the universe. This represents the ultimate purpose of the entire evolutionary process: the development of individual consciousness capable of conscious cooperation with divine will. However, Blavatsky emphasized that not all beings would complete this entire journey. She taught that individual development proceeds at different rates, and some would require additional cycles of incarnation to complete their evolution. The compassionate would remain to assist these slower developing souls, while others would move on to new fields of evolutionary experience. The transition from the seventh root race would not involve death or destruction, but rather a gradual shift to higher dimensional existence, with the physical Earth eventually becoming uninhabitable and its evolved life moving to more subtle planes of being. Chapter 10. Humanity's ultimate destiny in the cosmic plan. According to Blavatsky's grand vision, the completion of the seven root races on Earth represents only one phase in an evolutionary journey that spans multiple planets, solar systems, and cosmic cycles. She taught that the ultimate destiny of human consciousness is to become conscious collaborators in the divine creative process, eventually developing the capacity to guide the evolution of other life streams and planetary systems. Blavatsky described 7 planetary chains, with Earth being the 4th planet in our particular chain. After completing evolution on Earth, advanced human souls would continue their development on Venus and other planets, each offering different types of experience and opportunities for consciousness expansion. This interplanetary evolution would continue until beings achieved what she called planetary mastery, complete understanding and control over all forces operating within a solar system. The final goal of human evolution, according to Theosophical teaching, is the development of what Blavatsky termed cosmic consciousness, awareness that encompasses not just individual identity or planetary existence, but conscious participation in the life and purpose of the universe itself. Beings who achieve this level of development become what she called solar angels, or Dhyan Chohans, serving as the creative intelligence behind natural laws and evolutionary processes. Blavatsky taught that this ultimate destiny explains the purpose behind all the struggles and sufferings of human evolution. Every experience, from the most primitive material existence to the highest spiritual insight, contributes to the development of consciousness capable of handling cosmic responsibilities. The individual will and intelligence developed through countless incarnations become the foundation for conscious creativity at universal levels. This cosmic perspective provides meaning and purpose to every stage of human development. According to Blavatsky, even the most difficult evolutionary phases serve essential purposes in developing the compassion, wisdom, and strength necessary for cosmic service. She taught that understanding this greater purpose could transform how individuals approach their personal development and current life circumstances. The timeline from Atlantis to the future that Blavatsky revealed was intended not merely as historical information, but as a guide for conscious participation in the evolutionary process. She believed that understanding humanity's cosmic destiny would inspire individuals to work more actively for the benefit of the whole, accelerating both personal and collective development. Blavatsky concluded that while the evolutionary process operates according to natural law and will ultimately succeed regardless of individual participation, conscious cooperation with the plan could significantly reduce the suffering and time required for completion, making the journey more harmonious for all beings involved in this magnificent cosmic adventure.